Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders. Welcome to another episode of Sean's Movie Crusades. My name is Sean Wasserkrug, and today we're reviewing one of the most anticipated films of 2019, Joaquin Phoenix's The Joker. Now, for anyone who knows me, knows that I am a huge Joker fan. He is easily my favorite villain in comic book lore. I prefer Joker over Batman, in a sense. I'm a Batman fan because of the Joker as a villain. And I have loved almost all the renditions that we've seen of the Joker, whether it be the 1966 Batman or the Mark Hamill with the Batman the Animated Series' Joker, to obviously Jack Nicholson in Batman '89, to the amazing performance of Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, and then there's also Jared Leto, which I was not a fan of at all. Easily the worst Joker performance in my eyes, and I will never not like that performance. So when they announced that they were going to be doing a Joker film strictly about the origin story of the Joker, I wasn't necessarily a fan of the initial results of it, because like Heath Ledger's Joker, the beauty of the Joker's essence of a character is that we don't know his backstory. He's just is. You don't know what led him to become the Joker, and that's what makes him scary. And that's what makes a lot of villains scary, is to not know why they are the way they are. They just are. And that's the problem with a lot of films today when it comes to these villains, is that a lot of people are doing prequels and stories that are explaining how they became this way and humanizing them to a point where we feel sorry for them more than actually fear them, such as like when Rob Zombie did Michael Myers' Halloween. We understood Michael Myers as a person more, to the point when he turned into the killer as Michael Myers, we understood his character a little bit more, which takes a little bit away from the character overall. And that's what I was afraid of when it came to this version of the Joker, is that we're going to be getting a humane explanation to what led him to become the way he is, which was not something that I was particularly a fan of. But when I took the aspect of the comic book story out of the equation, which is what they are legitimately asking you to do with this film, I was more okay with it. And then they casted Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker, who I think is one of the best actors working today. I mean, I personally loved him in Gladiator and Walk the Line as Johnny Cash, among other roles as well. And I think he's a fantastic actor, so when they casted him in the role, I was a little more open-minded to it, but then they announced the director was going to be Todd Phillips, who I most know as the director of Hangover and Old School, which, great comedies, mind you. I love those comedies. But not someone that I would picture being in charge of a film like this. So there was a lot of weighing on my thoughts in terms of this film, and then they released the first trailer, and it felt like an experience that I wasn't expecting. Yes, it does have an essence of Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver and King Comedy, in a sense. And yes, there are definite beats in this film that is going to call back to those films, kind of as a respectful nod of the cap, or tip of the cap. But the Joker itself is still the Joker. So let's go ahead and dive into this film and see exactly what my thoughts were, and see what I gave an overall review of. So the general plot of Joker is that it takes place in the 1980s, Gotham, and we follow the story around Arthur Fleck, played by Joaquin Phoenix, and he's a rather disturbed, mentally sick individual. I mean, he's not necessarily coming off as a violent guy. He looks like a rather nice guy in a sense, but definitely has some internal demons and some issues that makes him not quite right in the head. In fact, one of the beats in the film is that he laughs uncontrollably at the wrong time. And we find out in the film that he does have a disorder, a mental disorder from a severe head injury from when he was a child, that will make him laugh no matter whether he thinks it's funny or not. He can just be uncomfortable, he can be upset, he can be sad, but it leads him to laugh uncontrollably, which I thought was actually a very brilliant move overall for the film, because it helped explain the Joker's mannerisms a little bit more as a character. But anyway, we are going through kind of basically the life of Arthur Fleck. He's a man who has never had a happy moment in his life, and he just wants to be happy. He wants to be loved by people. I mean, he does have his mother who loves him, but he wants to be thought of in a proper way. He wants to be loved by people. He wants to be a stand-up comedian, and he just wants to feel wanted. Which, I mean, I think a lot of people can feel that way. And he goes through his days constantly just physically, mentally, and emotionally abused by anyone who comes near him. And most of the time it's not because he did anything. He just was in their atmosphere of their wrath. Because Gotham is basically, and we've known this in terms of all other Batman films, Gotham is a very dangerous place to live, and it is very unnerving and unforgiving on anyone who is interpreted as weak. And Arthur in this film is portrayed as weak, and Gotham and the people living there show no remorse to Arthur whatsoever. And so we follow his story and his descent into madness, into becoming the one Joker. And so, I mean, that's generally the basic plot without going too far into it. I mean, and I'll touch on some things here as we go on, but that's the general plot of Joker. What works with Joker? A lot. This movie is fantastic. I mean, it's an amazing character study of a person who is mentally ill, disturbed, and is pushed to his limits where he does things that not even he wanted to do, but because he does it is looked at in a to some people in a positive light, and because of his wanting to be accepted and loved and stuff like that, opens up a very, very dangerous world for everyone around him. And that's kind of what this film is trying to tell you, is that I know a lot of people are like, this is a very dangerous film. This can be looked at very negatively by people, and you could have people try to kind of look at him as a hero and try to follow in his footsteps. I personally don't see that as being an issue. I can see in the parts of the film where that can be looked at like that, but I don't think anyone watching this film is going to be looking at it, taking notes, going, I'm going to be this, I want to be this, because it's not, I mean, they don't chalk it up as a great life at all, trying to be the Joker. But obviously the number one thing in this film is the performance of Joaquin Phoenix. This is easily my favorite role of his. He comes in and he completely owns this character. There is not a single frame in this film where Joaquin Phoenix is not in it. There is no scene, at least to my recollection, because I just got out of it about an hour and a half ago, where I can think of where he's not on screen, or at least in the vicinity of what they're shooting. Joaquin, from first frame to last frame, it is his movie the whole way throughout. Now, because of that, do the supporting cast basically get overshadowed quite a bit? Absolutely. I don't think anyone in this film that's not Joaquin has more than 5 to 10 minutes of screen time. So, in terms of supporting cast, they are basically there to further the Arthur story and not have any story really of themselves, which can be looked at as a negative, but this is a story called Joker, and we are here to see Arthur's story, not these other people's story. But Joaquin Phoenix does one of the best performances I've ever seen in terms of a character study. He lost a ton of weight for this role. He descends into his own madness, which Joaquin Phoenix, as an actor or even as a person, we have seen him kind of lose it throughout his career, and this film could be looked at very dangerously for him in terms of what happened with, potentially of Heath Ledger. But that was a whole other situation. But with Joaquin Phoenix and the way he does this film, there's no question that Joaquin should be nominated for Best Actor for this film and potentially win for this film. I mean, the only other performance I've loved this year that I can see him rival, which even then I would still pick Joaquin, would be Rocket Man with Taron Egerton. Joaquin Phoenix does things in this film that I was not expecting, and he goes into some really deep and dark places that I think only Joaquin would be been able to do the way that we saw in this film, and he does it magnificently. The film also, as dark and gritty as it is, Todd Phillips does a exquisite, beautiful job, cinematography-wise, of shooting this film and giving you that dark, gritty world of Gotham, but also helping the descent into madness. We are in Arthur's brain through this film. We are seeing how Arthur sees the world. We are living Arthur's life as we're going through this film. And the way Todd Phillips directed this film, shot this film, and with Joaquin Phoenix's performances, we feel what Arthur feels. We are going through the beats that Arthur feels. And while a lot of people might go, you're trying to humanize him, yes, in a sense, but we are also seeing a person that wasn't just a normal guy and this happened to it and went to it. We are seeing a disturbed gentleman who frankly should not be out in the world. He should have been in a mental institution, which he was, and then let out. And he even said, I feel safer being in a mental institution, and he should have stayed there. We are seeing a very unstable guy, and I would love to keep going deeper into it, but I don't want to spoil the film too much, but with the Joker, and we've seen this in other comic book stories, is a lot of people are just one bad day away from becoming something that they're going to regret for the rest of their lives, and that is kind of what happened with Arthur, but it wasn't just one bad day, it was day after day after day, just building and building and building, and just like Gotham in this film, it is a powder keg, and the Joker is the match, and when the Joker finally does show up in the film, Gotham does explode, in a mental sense, not a physical sense, but it is incredibly well done, it is beautifully shot. Every scene is incredibly tense, and you're not supposed to feel good watching this film. You're not supposed to be leaving this theater with a big smile on your face, happy-go-lucky. It is supposed to make you feel dirty and gritty and unfeeling. Like, you're not supposed to feel good with this film. And so for a lot of people, that might be a problem for them. They might not like this movie, because this is not a movie to come in and have a good time watching. This is a literal character study of the mentally ill, and then people basically basically propping him up as this hero who is not a hero. He is a villain, and he's a villain for a reason. And even while we're watching this film, the film is very unapologetic when it comes to its violence, when there is violence in the film. They're not even Todd Phillips. They're not trying to glorify the Joker as this hero. Yes, we are supposed to feel sympathy for Arthur when he's going through the things that he's going through, because yeah, it is unfair, and some of the things are unwarranted that he goes through, but he does do some really evil, bad things that is unforgivable. So it's kind of a 50-50 split. We're not supposed to feel sorry for him. We're not supposed to feel anything for him, except for a very dangerous individual who got put in a situation, and while the situation was forced on him, is now glorifying himself as this hero because he did it, and also the people of Gotham, for in a sense glorifying him as well, and just how one bad thing can turn someone into a monster. And that is what this film is trying to teach us. It's not a film that we're supposed to cheer for what the Joker does by any means. It's kind of more of a cautionary tale. And if you people who are going to this film, if you're expecting a comic book movie, you're not going to get that here. This is not a comic book film. This is a character study of a very deranged individual who is basically being popularized because of a very, very horrible act that he did. And this is not something that you're supposed to feel good about while watching the film. I mean, I felt good because I was watching a phenomenal performance, but I didn't feel good about the film in itself. It's not a feel-good film. It's not a film that you're supposed to go, oh my god, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. You can in terms of a character study, but it's not you're not supposed to enjoy this film in the way that you're supposed to enjoy like an Avengers Endgame, a Toy Story 4, Peanut Butter Falcon. This is a very dark and deep cut into the mind of a very mentally unstable person. And Joaquin does it fantastically. I mean, one of the most beautiful things that I love about the story, or at least of the performance of Joaquin, is that when he is Arthur, he's very kind of like a little mouse. He's very closed off. He's very preserved in his surroundings, and he doesn't come out of his shell. And when he does come out of that shell, it's when he's alone and he's envisioning these things and not actually doing them. But when he turns into the Joker, or when he lets the Joker persona take over him, it is a entirely different character. You literally see Joaquin Phoenix transform physically, emotionally, verbally, like someone is literally changing a personality, like personality disorder. Just like when we saw with James McAvoy in Split. It is a complete transformation for the Arthur character when he goes from Arthur Fleck to the Joker himself, and it's a sight to be seen when it happens, and it's a very uneasy feeling when it happens, even including to the people who are watching it happen unfold in front of them. Like I said, it's a very incredibly beautiful performance by Joaquin Phoenix in a very uneasy way of watching it. In terms of supporting cast, like I said, not a lot of them get a lot to do. I mean, as I say, most of them have maybe a total of like 5 minutes on screen, maybe a little bit longer. Robert De Niro does a great job as Murray Franklin, who's basically an idol to Arthur Fleck. You also have Zazie Beetz, who plays Sophie. We get some beats of her character, but not enough to really sink her teeth into or to brand her character as something more than what she is seen in Arthur's eyes. Frances Conroy as Penny Fleck, Arthur's mother. I think she does a great job in her performance and what we get. She definitely gets the most screen time out of everyone else in the film, and I think what she does and her dialogue and back and forth with Arthur explains a lot about the character itself, but also just gives a little bit more to the world of Arthur and as a whole. Also, you have Brett Cullen as Thomas Wayne. Could we gotten a little bit more of him, just kind of give a little bit more of the other side of things? Yes, but everything that we are seeing from Arthur Wayne is through the eyes of, through Thomas Wayne, is through the eyes of Arthur. We do obviously get a small cameo of Bruce. We get about 2 scenes with Bruce Wayne, but he's a kid in this. I mean, the kid doesn't really have any acting lines outside of like maybe 2 lines, so it's not anything incredibly crazy out of there. And then the rest of the cast are just kind of people who are around Arthur's world. They may get a few lines here or there, but aren't very big social uses in terms of for a supporting cast, because like I said, this is Joaquin's movie, and we are watching Joaquin's performance from beginning to end, and everyone else is kind of just dressing on the salad for his performance overall. But yeah, that's what really works for Joker. I know I said a lot about it, but like I said, most of what is in Joker works 100%. What doesn't work with Joker, like I kind of just said, some of the supporting cast really gets completely wasted. But when they are used, they are great. It's just that there are certain people that you just wish you could have gotten more out of them, such as Zazie Beetz, Frances Conroy, Robert De Niro, Mark Maron, Brian Tyree Henry. He gets one scene, and I love this scene, but I mean, he was just playing kind of a small role in the film. But a lot of these actors, or even, like I said, Brett Cullen with Thomas Wayne, I wish we could have gotten just more from their characters, but like I said earlier, it's not their story, it's Arthur's story, but you can look at it as a negative. The other thing, too, is that the first hour is a very, very slow burn, with the last half hour of the film really picking up the pace and really kicking it into a new gear. So for people who are expecting a lot of, quick, exciting, or action kind of scenes, you're not going to get that here. Like I said, this is a character study of this one character's descent into madness, and is a very slow build. For me, I was fine with that because I knew that going in, that's what I was going to get. But for some people who are thinking Joker, comic book movie, you're coming in probably, if you don't come in with the right situation of this film, it is probably going to come off negatively for you. So for people who are going into this film, this is a dramatic film about a very sick person, not a comic book movie where Batman is going to show up or anything like that. That's not happening in this film, and if you go in with that approach, then yeah, you're probably not going to enjoy this film overall. If you go in with the right approach of how this film's supposed to be, then I think I find it very hard for a lot of people not to love this film in terms of what it did, not in terms of loving the film as a favorite film, but for what it did as a whole. But yeah, that's the only things that don't really work for me in terms of that. So going to the overall thoughts, Joker is in my opinion, one of the best films of the year so far in terms of what it was trying to tell and the story it was trying to tell and the performances, especially obviously Joaquin, and the direction of Todd Phillips as a whole. Do I feel like this film is going to be hopefully nominated for a lot of awards? Absolutely. If Joaquin does not get nominated for Best Actor, let alone as of right now win, then it's the Oscars really trying to punish it for being a comic book film. Frances Conroy, she could get nominated for supporting actress, or even De Niro for supporting actor. Todd Phillips should be nominated for Best Director, and the cinematography should be nominated. This film is a gorgeous film, even though it's not pretty to look at. The way it's shot and the way the color palette is done, this film is an awards grabber, and it deserves the recognition that it's going to get. And for people who want to see this film, just go in with the right mindset of this film. This is not a comic book movie. I do not recommend you bring your kids to this film. Even if they're Joker fans, this is not the Joker that they are used to watching. This is an entirely different kind of film. It is not a superhero film. It is not a comic book movie. It is a drama about a very, very sick person, and then people glorifying him as a hero for the acts that he does. This is not a film I recommend to children. Even young teenagers, I wouldn't recommend this film for them, because I wouldn't want them to think that this is a good thing. This is a very negative way that the film is trying to portray, but for some people, they might consider it a positive way. So this is definitely a very adult film, but assuming that you go into it with the right mindset of what this movie is, I 100% recommend this movie, and let alone just to see Joaquin Phoenix's performance. If you're expecting a Batman movie or a very action-packed film, that's not what you're getting here, and I wouldn't recommend it to you. So as long as you know the movie you're going to see, I 100% recommend this film to anyone who wants to see a beautiful character study and a phenomenal performance out of Joaquin Phoenix. So going to the actual review score for the Joker, I'm giving the Joker a 9.6 out of 10. It is definitely something that's going to have to take some repeat viewings, and even with the repeat viewings, it could go higher, it could go lower, but as of right now, coming out of that film, I think that it did exactly what it was trying to do, and with the performances and the way it was shot and filmed, I think it is easily one of the best films of the year, and that is why I gave it a 9.6 out of 10. So going to the top 10 films of 2019 so far, Joker will be coming in at the number 3 spot, behind Toy Story 4 and Avengers Endgame. And then following the Joker, we've got Peanut Butter Falcon at number 4, with Rocket Man at number 5, followed by Spider-Man Far From Home at number 6, with Booksmart at 7, Us at 8, John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum at 9, with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood closing out the top 10, with It Chapter 2 dropping outside of the top 10. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys feel like this review is worth sharing, go ahead and hit that share button. But most importantly, don't forget to hit that like button on the channel so that way you guys stay all up to date with all the videos that pop up on YouTube. And also don't forget to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. If I can find enough people who want to be a part of it, I will probably do a spoiler review of Joker if that's something that you guys would be interested in. So be on the lookout for that if that's something that does pop up. And next week, we've got 2 movies coming out. We got the cartoon version of The Addams Family, and then we also got Will Smith's Gemini Man, which I actually think looks really great. And I'm actually really excited for that one. So be on the lookout for definitely Gemini Man and maybe Addams Family, the cartoon, as a review as well. Until next time, in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.